is your host, Leani, back for episode 7 of I Got Nothing, a podcast for exhausted writers. This particular topic actually comes from one of my listeners, and I love her to death. She knows who she is, and I was really excited to get this because, one, it showed that people were interested in listening to me talk, which that's still kind of mind-blowing for me. But also, it's a topic that I'm still learning, and one I didn't realize was important when I started my ghostwriting romance novel journey. So, for those of you who don't know, I am a ghostwriter. I have been ghostwriting for almost 4 years now, and my main focus has been ghostwriting romance novels, which means a client hires me, they have an idea, they have characters, we talk, I come up with an outline, and then when they approve it, I write a romance novel for them. Did you guys know that was a thing? Because 4 years ago, I did not know that was a thing. And I am so happy it is because I love it. As I said, I've been doing it for almost 4 years now. I have an amazing client. We get along really well. And she has really helped me learn about the romance genre in general. I guess when I started writing for this genre, I had the same views that a lot of other people have, which is, oh, romance novels. Oh, yes, those novels that have that gorgeous man on the cover and there's all this steaminess and, yeah, I can do that in my sleep. I can't. It takes a lot of work. There's actually a lot more that goes into writing romance than I realized, and I think most of the general population realizes. Romance is a very specific genre. There are very specific rules to writing romance. There's actually a full-on formula. Yeah, didn't know that either. When I was first hired to ghostwrite for a ghostwriting company, when my boss at the time sent me the romance formula, it just blew me away because for some reason I kind of forgot that certain genres do have formulas that work. I didn't think anything of it because I've just written just to write in the past. So it was a pretty big change for me to realize there was a formula and there are specific story beats and specific story types and archetypes and tropes and things of that nature that go into romance. I knew that part. I think we all know the particular romantic tropes, you know, the strong male and the woman that he sweeps off her feet and things of that nature, which I'm a sucker for. I just have never written for those particular tropes before, at least not intentionally. And I think that's the main key. You have to be very intentional with what you're writing, what the characters are like, their interactions with each other. My gut instinct when writing female characters is to shy away from the shrinking violet because I've seen it so many times and I love writing strong women. However, what I noticed recently while writing is that a lot of times I was mistaking the strong female trope with being cold. It's not something I was doing on purpose, but recently, during one of my projects, I received some feedback, and it was not negative. It was wonderful constructive criticism, which I desperately crave because I want to keep growing and developing as a writer. But I realized from another person's point of view, a lot of the things I had the female say and do came off really unlikable and very, very cold and very closed off, which, if that's the kind of character you're writing for, great. I was not in this case. I was supposed to be writing a romantic comedy. Yeah, I did not do that. So I am continually reminded about the fact that writing romance is not as easy as it sounds. So when you are writing romance, when you are specifically following the romantic relationship of two characters as the main story plot, that is a romance novel. Things can happen to them outside of that romantic relationship. Most of the times it should. But when the focus is the romantic relationship of these two characters, there's certain beats and certain actions and certain reactions that you need to keep in mind when you're doing that. Prior to writing romance novels, a lot of my romantic relationships ended up being secondary when I was writing them. So what I've had to untrain myself to do, especially when I'm working on an outline for my client, is to not necessarily focus solely on what's happening around the two characters. I have to learn to allow myself to focus on their developing romantic relationship because it's a romance novel and that's what it's supposed to be about. The reason why you see romance novels with very similar tropes and very similar story beats is because they work. They do. This genre has been around for a long time and will always be around. Who doesn't love a good romance? I am, in any type of media. I'm a sucker for that. So there are particular tropes that go into romance novels. One is the alpha male, which we all have seen in media again and again, but you need to be careful with that. It's great to have an alpha male character, but you need to be careful because there's a fine line between being an alpha male and being an asshole. So you have to be really careful when you're writing an alpha male to not make him that big of a jerk. There's a fine line there, so you have to straddle that line sometimes, and you can get close to the line, but you have to pull back and not step over that line, because if he's really a jerk, then why does this female character like him? There has to be enough emotion there to connect with the female character. That's just one of the examples. Another example is the strong female character. Like I said before, I struggle with this because in my attempt to make the trope my own, I dipped over the line of keeping her emotions close to her chest, so much so that the character came across as cold and uncaring. So that's another line you have to straddle. And I guess my main observation when dealing with those tropes is the fact that I have to remind myself that romance depends on that emotion on the page. If you're writing a romantic story, there is going to be emotion involved. So rather than focusing on the action and what the characters are doing and saying, you really have to focus more on the emotion behind it. Why is she closed off? Why are they mistrustful? Why is he hesitant to take that step? Why is she hesitant to take that step? Or any other pronoun, you can swap that out as you'd like. But regardless of the pronouns that you use, make sure you hold on to that emotion. This is also important to note when you are writing steamy love scenes. There is a huge difference between writing romance and writing erotica. Mostly in the terminology. Erotica tends to be a little bit more, how should I put this? Nope, don't want to say that. Nope, that's going to come across wrong. Erotica is more explicit language. When you are writing love scenes in a romance novel, you should focus more, again, on the emotion and feelings of the character, not necessarily on the explicit acts that they are doing. That's the main difference between romance and erotica. So that was actually a lesson that took me a while to learn, that there was a difference between romantic love scenes and erotic love scenes. And that also stems from knowing the genre that you're writing for. Not just when it comes to romance, even though that's a pretty big one, but when you're writing other genres as well, sci-fi, action, drama, crime, what have you. You really want to go into that knowing your genre. So if you're going to write a crime thriller, you're going to research that genre, or you should research that genre to see what kinds of stories and tropes and things like that work, because some of them don't. Or at least it's very difficult for them to work in that genre. But if you want to try it, again, like I always say, you do you. This is just what I've learned and what I apply to myself. But in general, if you are going to write for a specific genre, it's really important to research that genre. And I think because there's such a stigma with romance novels, and in the past, they've been the butt of a lot of jokes. I think when approaching writing romance, people forget to do their research. And when I say people, I am totally including myself in this. I'm not sitting here going, oh, but I didn't think that. Oh, I know this, and I knew that I had to research. And no, like most other people, oh, I can write this. And then I realized, oh, you are really naive, and that was really presumptuous of you. Thankfully, I realized that, and I was willing to learn and adapt. Otherwise, I would have had a very, very short ghostwriting career when it came to romance novels. Actually, one of the first things I did when I started writing romance novels is read a crap ton of romance novels. Anytime you see advice for improving your writing and expanding your writing, you see one of the top pieces of advice writers give you is to read. And that's really important because, first of all, it exposes you to new media. And I found in my creative process, I am much more open to writing, and my muse flows a little bit better when I'm consuming other types of media that I haven't consumed before. You're just exposed to new ideas, new characters, and it really gets the creative juices flowing. It's the same thing with reading romance novels when you're writing romance. Especially reading popular romance novels, because you start to see why they are popular in that particular genre, and it helps you see that formula and see those tropes in action. And it also helps you see how other writers make it their own. Because, yes, there are tropes and there's a formula, but don't be afraid to make it your own. I try. Again, I'm in certain parameters, but there's always a part of me where I'm writing something and I'm like, how can I make this my own? And it's hard to make things your own if you don't have a starting point. Because you're not really making it your own, you're just creating it yourself. And that's fine too. I mean, if you don't want to write for a particular genre, or you want to include multiple genres or what have you, that's cool. But specifically, if you are looking to write romance novels, do your research, read a bunch of romance novels yourselves, different kinds, different storylines, different tropes and types of characters. Just read. Oh, one final thought, very important. Set boundaries for yourself. Romance can encompass a lot of different characters and actions and explicit material or romantic material. And if it's something you're not comfortable with, And I'm not talking about like, maybe I'll write this, I'll try it. If you're like, no, I literally can't bring myself to write this, that's totally okay. Set boundaries for yourself. Boundaries are important, which I talked about in a whole other episode, which just highlights how important boundaries are. So there you have it, my thoughts on writing romance. Again, thank you to the person who submitted the suggestion. I was super excited to get it. And per usual, I'm always open to podcast topics, questions, things of that nature, so just send them my way. Yeah, so thank you guys for listening to episode 7 of I Got Nothing, a podcast for exhausted writers. Your feedback and your comments have been amazing, and I love you guys so much, and talk to you soon. Bye.